Ethan Ward and the Shattered Crown. Chapter 1. Echoes of the Past. Months had passed since the perilous adventure on Black Coral Island. The memories of ancient pirate curses and fierce confrontations still lingered in Ethan Ward's mind. But life had moved on. Sophia had returned to her research work, while Marcus immersed himself in the world of digital security, decoding and sealing the vulnerabilities discovered during their last expedition. Yet, history has a way of never resting quietly. Ethan was reviewing a centuries-old manuscript he had taken from the Caribbean when a detail caught his eye. An engraving of a shattered golden crown surrounded by strange symbols. Notes in the margins, written in an archaic script, described an artifact known as the Shattered Crown of Alaron, believed to grant influence over the wills of men when united with its missing fragments. Scholars considered it a legend, but the coordinates scrawled on one page suggested otherwise. Sophia, curious and concerned, linked the symbols to an extinct empire from the Mediterranean. Marcus ran searches through encrypted networks and discovered chatter on dark web forums. Someone else was looking for the same crown. Someone who was paying mercenaries to track every lead. The name attached to those mercenaries was Victor Drayden, an ex-intelligence officer turned rogue opportunist, known for stealing relics and selling them to shadow syndicates. If Drayden found the Shattered Crown first, its power could plunge entire regions into chaos. The decision was clear. Ethan, Sophia, and Marcus would track down the artifact, not for fortune or fame, but to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. Chapter 2. Into the Sands of Time. The search led them to the eastern Mediterranean, where records pointed to a desert peninsula littered with ruins that predated Roman influence. Ethan and Sophia flew over an endless ocean of golden sand, their helicopter descending toward a forgotten fortress, half buried in dunes. Marcus monitored communications remotely, ensuring that Drayden's mercenaries wouldn't ambush them unnoticed. The ruins were ancient, their stone pillars fractured, yet still defiant against centuries of storms. Hieroglyphic-like carvings from a civilization neither Greek nor Egyptian told of a crown forged from 7 fragments, each hidden across the known world to prevent absolute dominion. One fragment was said to rest in this desert fortress. Inside, the air was thick with heat and silence. Time had eroded everything except the sensation of being watched. Ethan traced the carvings on the wall, identifying an inscription that revealed the fragment's resting place. A chamber below the fortress, sealed with mechanical locks lost to time. The descent was treacherous. Sand cascaded through collapsed ceilings, and one misstep could send them plummeting into dark chasms below. But perseverance led them to the chamber, a vault guarded not by modern devices but by ancient ingenuity. Pressure plates, false floors, and hidden spears told of an empire that feared its secrets stolen even after death. At the chamber's center rested the fragment, a jagged piece of gold pulsing faintly with an almost unnatural gleam. Sophia carefully secured it, knowing this was only the beginning. For if one piece was here, others awaited in equally dangerous places. Above ground, however, their every move was being tracked. A drone hovered at high altitude, its camera lens focusing on Ethan's team. Thousands of kilometers away, Victor Drayden watched and smiled. Chapter 3. The Jungle of Whispers. The second fragment led them to South America, deep in the uncharted Amazon basin. The coordinates suggested ruins swallowed by dense vegetation and protected by rivers notorious for unpredictable currents. Local myths spoke of a crown ghost guarding the place, a story dismissed by scholars but whispered with unease by locals. Sophia navigated the map while Ethan macheted through thick vines, their clothes clinging to their skin under relentless humidity. The jungle seemed alive, not only with its wildlife, but with an unsettling stillness that came and went like a breath held too long. Reaching the ruin required traversing a rope bridge over a river, alive with unseen creatures beneath its surface. Marcus, using satellite feeds, guided them toward a structure covered in layers of moss and roots, its architecture eerily similar to what they had seen in the desert. But before they could step inside, an apex predator emerged from the shadows, a jaguar, its coat sleek and golden, eyes reflecting predatory precision. It lunged without hesitation. Ethan's reflexes took over. He rolled aside, drawing the animal's attention away from Sophia. With quick thinking, he used a flare gun to startle the beast, sending it retreating into the jungle's depths. The silence that followed felt almost reverent, as though nature itself had acknowledged their resolve. Inside the ruin, a mural depicted the crown controlling entire armies. Sophia theorized that the fragments amplified one another's power, and the full crown could bend wills beyond reason. The second fragment lay beneath an altar, protected by a stone mechanism that responded only to pressure applied in a precise sequence, a puzzle solved through Sophia's knowledge of ancient engineering. When they emerged, the sky was darkening. Ethan sensed it wasn't just the setting sun. Someone was following them again. Chapter 4: Drayden's Shadow. Victor Drayden had spent years orchestrating covert operations across continents, but this mission was personal. He considered himself not a thief, but a restorer of power, claiming that artifacts belonged not in museums, but in the hands of those willing to use them. With 2 fragments already in Ethan's possession, Drayden saw an opportunity, not just to take the crown, but to humiliate Ethan Ward. Drayden's men launched their ambush at a river crossing. The firefight was brief but intense, forcing Ethan's team to flee downstream on a motorized raft Marcus had stashed earlier. Bullets splashed into the water as Sophia clutched the relics tightly, refusing to let history's burden fall into darker hands. That night, Ethan stared at the fragments, contemplating their strange glow. Marcus confirmed that Drayden had acquired at least 1 fragment already, stolen from a European collector under mysterious circumstances. If Drayden managed to unite all pieces, chaos was inevitable. The trail to the remaining fragments pointed to an island in the Aegean Sea, long abandoned after a volcanic eruption centuries ago. But Drayden was already on his way, his private helicopter carving through the Mediterranean sky like a predator closing in on prey. Chapter 5: The Shattered Crown. Complete. The Aegean island lay beneath a veil of low-hanging clouds, its rocky cliffs scarred by centuries of wind and salt. Vegetation clung stubbornly to the hardened black lava that bore witness to the island's violent volcanic past. Ethan, Sophia, and Marcus had approached at dawn, steering a small inflatable craft toward the jagged coastline. The sea crashed furiously against the rocks, spraying salt water onto their gear as they secured their equipment. The site of the submerged temple had been revealed only through Sophia's analysis of seismic readings and Marcus's decryption of a map long thought to be fraudulent. The temple, built by a forgotten maritime empire, had been partially entombed by molten rock after a cataclysmic eruption. Now, centuries later, Tectonic shifts had lowered the sea level just enough to expose the temple's fractured steps during low tide. Moving quickly, they descended into the partially submerged entryway. Their boots splashed through pools of seawater that shimmered in the early light, filtering through cracks in the collapsed ceiling. Enormous marble columns, snapped like twigs, lined the main hall, their intricate carvings depicting warriors raising a crown toward the sky. At the far end, a pedestal jutted from the stone floor, partially encased in cooled lava. And on that pedestal, encased in a corroded metal box, were two fragments of the shattered crown. Even through layers of grime, their golden edges glimmered, almost as if alive. But they were not alone. The crunch of boots on gravel echoed behind them, followed by the unmistakable hum of military-grade drones. Victor Drayden had arrived, flanked by 6 heavily armed mercenaries clad in black tactical gear. From their elevated vantage at the temple's threshold, Drayden's men opened fire. The hall erupted into chaos as bullets sparked off ancient stone. Ethan shoved Sophia behind one of the broken columns and returned fire with his sidearm. Marcus, crouched near the pedestal, yanked out a portable signal disruptor, frying the circuits of 2 incoming drones that spiraled out of control and crashed into the seawater. Drayden himself strode confidently into the hall, a matte black rifle slung over his shoulder, and one gloved hand casually gripping the 3rd fragment of the crown, which he had stolen from a European collector weeks earlier. His smile was cold and deliberate as he approached. The firefight intensified. Sophia sprinted toward a fallen beam, using it as cover while she deployed a flash charge. The blinding detonation echoed through the chamber, giving Ethan a precious window of opportunity. He surged forward, tackled one of Drayden's mercenaries, and sent the man's weapon skidding across the floor. Sophia scrambled to the pedestal, prying open the corroded metal case with a crowbar. The crown fragments inside hummed with a faint, unnatural vibration. For a brief moment, she felt as though the air around her shifted, as if the fragments themselves were reacting to Drayden's piece nearby. She shook off the sensation and stuffed them into her pack. Drayden barked an order to his remaining men, pointing toward Sophia. 2 mercenaries lunged forward, but Ethan intercepted them, using the broken beam to disarm one and hurl the other into a stone column. Marcus, holding the signal disruptor in one hand and a pistol in the other, managed to disable Drayden's remaining drones before they could flank from above. With their position compromised and structural cracks forming under the intensity of the firefight, Ethan shouted for retreat. They dashed through the collapsing hall as centuries-old stone rained down around them. Outside, the sky darkened, winds whipping violently, as if nature itself rebelled against their intrusion. But even in retreat, Ethan caught one last glimpse of Drayden. The rogue operative stood calmly amid the destruction, still clutching his single fragment. His expression was neither anger nor fear, but confidence, a silent promise that this battle was far from over. The team raced back to their craft, engines roaring to life as waves threatened to slam them against the rocks. Behind them, the temple groaned and buckled, sinking back toward the sea in a cloud of dust and foam. They had secured 4 fragments, more than any historian had ever dreamed of holding, but Drayden had one. And with his resources, one was enough to continue his dangerous pursuit of power. As the boat sped across the turbulent waters, Ethan looked at Sophia. She clutched the fragments tightly, their golden glow faintly visible even through the thick fabric of her pack. For the first time, he wondered if retrieving these pieces had unleashed something they were not prepared to confront. The shattered crown was no longer just history. It was alive, in the present. Chapter 6. A Fragile Victory. Back at their safe house, Ethan and Sophia examined the fragments. Even incomplete, they radiated energy that felt almost alive. Marcus encrypted their locations and sealed them in a vault under layers of digital and physical security. Yet victory felt hollow. Drayden was still at large, his ambitions undeterred. Worse, intelligence hinted that he had found someone capable of reconstructing the crown from even partial fragments. The battle for history's soul was far from over. As the sun set beyond the horizon, Ethan reflected on their path. They had faced death in deserts, jungles, and seas, had escaped ambushes and predators, but their greatest challenge lay ahead. For some treasures, once unearthed, refused to return to the ground quietly. And somewhere, Victor Drayden whispered a promise to the darkness. This was not the end. If you enjoyed the story of Ethan Ward and want to keep learning English through more of his thrilling adventures, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. New stories are coming soon.